Hi there, and welcome to the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. We're Paris and Alana, friends who have a heart for intimacy and long to uncover God's truth and design for sexual freedom within marriage. Welcome here. All right, so today we are going to tackle something that we've gotten quite a number of messages about lately, and it's a really big topic, and especially if it's not something you've really gone through often or at all. I mean, then maybe this doesn't even apply to you, but I feel like at some point in our relationships with our spouses, there is a time where you have to be apart. It's kind of just inevitable. I mean, some couples are not ever apart. Like I know couples who have only spent days apart. And that's fine. Like, obviously it's whatever is going on in your life and with jobs and things, everything's dependent on that. But today we wanted to tackle long distance relationship. I don't know how to word this. Long distance. I was just going to say that, like, how do we say this? I don't know. We want an episode for the long distance lovers that are listening to our podcast, and how you can go through this with grace and still feel connected and, intimate somehow with your spouse, even if you have to spend weeks. Some of you have to spend months apart, and it just like breaks my heart reading that. And it, like, I know it's like, it's fine. And everyone, like, there's seasons for everything, right? But so we just really hope we can encourage you in this to, continue on, and, you can do this. You're doing great. So yeah, Paris, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think that's really good. Like, both Alana and I have never had to spend weeks or months away from our husbands. So it was really helpful just seeing you guys give tips and just a realistic standpoint of what it's like. And it's such a thing. And like Alana said, my heart breaks for you guys too, because that is reality for a lot of you. Like, we have a lot of military wives actually on our platform. And I just want to give a huge shout out to you women, because you're incredible. And we just really pray that this episode blesses you as we put thoughts and prayers together into this. And I think first and foremost, going into long distance as a couple, to maintain a kingdom mindset is huge, because I know even in the days, and it's not like Neil and I have been away from each other for long, but a matter of days, I can already feel like just stuff creeping up on me and, thoughts, and the enemy gets in there. It's just a whole open door for spiritual warfare. And to continue to pursue a kingdom mindset throughout this is so huge. So we want to encourage you in that. Alana and I have all these fun tips for you guys, and we just really pray that they are blessings to you all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, Jeff and I have spent some weeks apart before. When, like, I would help out at summer camps, or when he had training and stuff in different places. So yeah, I mean, we've had a taste, obviously not months, but I've done some traveling by myself, and then, yeah. So it's definitely not easy, but I mean, nothing compared to months apart. That would be an entirely different story, I feel like, but
yeah, no kidding.
All right. So here we go. Let's jump into these. And lots of these are things that you guys suggested. So these are from people who've actually gone through this, and you're the ones who are slugging through and doing great. So we're like, let's just share what you guys said.
Yes. This is the community collaboration here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, lots of you guys said to schedule, weekly or nightly, like video chat, like FaceTimes, phone calls, which I feel like that's kind of obvious. That's a great one, just to be chatting. Lots of you just like chat all the time, or like some of the people even said like FaceTime while you're showering, you're getting dressed, things like that. It's like, I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good one.
It is. And I love that we had the blessing of technology for things especially like this.
Yes.
I think the key word in all of that is to schedule it, because if you're just flying by the seat of your pants and you're just hit and miss, that can breed a lot of frustration very quickly and just drive a wedge in there. So epitomize scheduling within that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, this kind of goes with it, is text throughout the day. If the opportunity is there for you guys to text throughout the day, please do it. I know that even speaking from personal experience, even though it's limited, the times that Neil and I have been away from each other and I haven't intentionally texted him throughout the day, he actually was a little bit hurt because he's like, I know that you have opportunities throughout the day where you sit down and texting. He's like, I'm really missing you. That would mean a lot to me. And I was like, oh man, I didn't prioritize it, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Neil doesn't do as well away from me. His love language, also love languages, you guys. His love language is physical touch. So he feels the distance so intensely when we are apart from each other. And so that was a big lesson for me. I was like, man, I need to intentionally text him, intentionally show up for him throughout the day, because that makes him feel seen and loved, without us having a physical presence. So that was a really big one. Also, along with texting, send along either physical photos with your spouse or text me photos. If you guys feel safe with doing that, that is awesome that we have the privilege of being able to do that. So that keeps the intimacy alive, because obviously we're really gearing this towards intimacy, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just gets dang hard when you're apart. So that is a fun thing to do to bless your spouse as well.
Yeah. No, that's really great. And I think too, often, I remember when I was working at a summer camp, I couldn't text Jeff throughout the day. And I'd get texts from him when he was available, but you're busy.
Yeah. And each other's schedule too, right? Keeping that communication.
Yeah.
The expectations are legit.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting. There's been times when he's gone on training trips where he's been away. And he's busy. And it's interesting when you're on the other side of it. And you're like, I wonder what he's doing. I wonder,
for real.
So your mind instantly can go other places where you're like, I wonder who he's with. It's so interesting how you really have to guard your mind in this season as well, because you could so easily run away. Which leads us to the next point, is just to have your relationship covered in lots and lots of prayer.
Absolutely.
Just to be praying for each other intentionally and your relationship, or asking other couples to pray over you as well, to get someone to mentor you in this season as well. Would be really, really great. Even people who have gone through this, who can be like, you know what, I know it's hard and I know this is hard, or whatever, who can have similar situations that you're going through, to just be there to pray over you and build you up and encourage you to just, stay the course. And something that came to mind too is to get a devotional that you both can physically have.
Absolutely.
Or if you have the Bible app, to do the same plan together. Because I know on that you can even connect at the end and chat about how it was, even in the app. So, study the scriptures together, share what you're learning, share what Holy Spirit's teaching you. Yes. And even praying together on the phone or when you're FaceTiming, whatever. Absolutely. I feel like that would also be really, really powerful and a great way to connect and stay emotionally connected, even when you're not together.
For sure. And even with that, the whole aspect of spiritual warfare comes in there. And I love that you said, have people mentoring you. Don't ever feel guilty for asking someone to come alongside you and mentor you through something. That's definitely just an instant lie of the enemy. We're meant for a relationship. We're meant to be mentored and give advice and encouragement. That is the body of Christ, you guys. And so it's huge, because I'm gonna go a step further here, and let's talk about temptation actually, even for a second here. That can become a real thing for very long distance couples, and if either couple has a background where they've really had a stronghold for a temptation, let's use porn for an example, having somebody mentoring you would be such a blessing, because someone's praying over you, covering you every single day. They're coming up against that spiritual warfare, and holding you up together as a couple. And I think that is just priceless. So don't ever, ever, ever feel ashamed, or even let embarrassment or shame come in there, because that's actually keeping you from reaping so many blessings that comes with having, godly couple coming alongside you guys. I think that's such a huge point, and it can come into play even without being in long distance relationships. This can apply to everything, but I think especially in a time where you're so vulnerable emotionally, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it's really good just to have someone checking in on you.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's move to our next little thing here. And I think this is cute because this is my love language. Snail mail. Send gifts and things in the mail to your lover, okay? Like getting things, if that is an option for you guys with where you're at with long distance, do it. How fun is that to get surprise things in the mail? You can send intimate love letters. You can send gifts. You can even send along sexy notes and stuff that are required to be opened on certain days. Like, make it fun. Play it up. That is so intimate, you guys. Like, that is so intimate. And for someone speaking from the love language of gifts and, like, quality time, that is amazing. So that is such a good little thing that doesn't take a lot of time. That is totally doable. So I love that idea. And you can even, like, going back to the sexy notes, opening them day by day, have them get steamier as the days get, closer to the end to build anticipation. It could be even like when you see them next is the day they open the last letter kind of thing. You can have a whole plan, just play it up, like really epitomize. I think a lot of us can quickly get stuck in long distance and just focus on how hard it is instead of epitomizing on the opportunities to come, like really switching your mindset as well within that. Yeah. Another fun thing you could do too is sending articles of clothing or lingerie or like some smell that reminds you of each other. Like, play it up 110%. I think those are beautiful ways to stay connected and keep the intimacy building.
Yeah, no, I love that. I've seen too where it's like open on this day or open when you're feeling sad or right. So it's so much fun.
I love that.
Yeah. All right. So another thing you could do is to plan ahead and, set aside time once you're back together to go on like this special date with just the two of you.
Yes.
And it's something you can even chat about, like on the phone. You're like, what are we going to do? And you talk about it and you make it exciting and build that anticipation. Where are we going to go? What are we going to eat? So I feel like that's another fun thing you could do. But especially like I know with lots of people having families, it can be like, obviously your kids want to be there too when your spouse is home. But at the same time, I feel like be intentional with your time to make sure you get out just the two of you as well. And just reconnect and just doing something fun that makes you feel special and makes you reconnect as a couple. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, and that plays into, just making your spouse feel connected to you during that long distance before you're back together, like that connection and just really safeguarding that is really huge, that emotional intimacy on top, right? Because that's what you're actually building there. The physical intimacy doesn't exist. So looking at that as an opportunity to really build into that emotional intimacy is a big thing, really focusing on building communication over this time. I'm going to say it straight. You can either make it or break it when you're long distance with communication, right? So commit to making it. Commit to like skyrocketing your level through the roof. Level it up. And I think that's a beautiful conversation to have before you're ever apart. And if you're apart now, go ahead and have that conversation now. Like, look, we're going to really just become epic communicators. And it's going to be amazing. Just keep speaking and breathing life into your relationship.
Mm-hmm. And something that someone said too is just like find out what makes your spouse feel really connected to you. For sure. And so then when you have those conversations, like she was, it was like, I really feel connected to you when we talk about what our goals are, what our dreams are, things like that. So just find out, like you mentioned, love languages. Maybe this is involved in that too, but what's a way that even if you haven't talked all day, you can come back together and then just really have that like emotional connection. And like those really good conversations to just really make you feel like you have that closeness, even if you're not physically close.
Absolutely. And I think on the opposite end of that, be equally open and honest with each other about feelings that are hard to talk about. Like if you're feeling anxiety over this or fear of disconnect, also chat about that. Like ways that you feel like this is a weak spot in me. Please cover me in prayer. Please understand this is where I'm coming from. Having those conversations with each other and having understanding and grace for each other in that, because there's equally a lot of hard emotions that you need to tackle in this.
Yeah.
And it is important to also bring that to the table too.
Yeah. Which I feel like leads really well into another thing that you really have to be mindful of is to avoid like dangerous situations.
Yeah.
Just like situations where, you are pretty vulnerable when you're apart, right? You and your spouse are in a different place. So being aware of,
especially if you're like holding on to, like you're really in a season of struggle, say this is just hard. It's just plain hard. And you're just very emotionally like drained, and it makes you vulnerable. And don't think for a second that the enemy doesn't see that. That's why we're encouraging guys to cover this in prayer and have people praying over you. Because Alana, you're so right. There's situations that people could unknowingly put themselves in because they're just so desperately longing to feel fulfilled in an area, right?
Yeah, I know. So I think just being really honest with yourself and being like, okay,
for sure.
Write it down. What are some things to me that would be dangerous? Like what's a no-go? Like, right? Like write out specific things. Okay, I'm hanging out with people and, all of a sudden it's just me and the guys or, whatever it is. Like, I feel like, or even, connecting with an old friend on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, like having those like long text chats with someone from the opposite sex where you're like getting that emotional connection with someone who's not your spouse. Like, I feel like you really have to be intentional about how you're spending your time and just be purposeful to avoid those situations.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. That's so good. And we also have, this is not connected in any way, but this is another fun idea because we want to leave this on a fun note because we just bashed you guys out with some heavy truths here. But it's so true. Like we really prayed over, like going into this, like we want to be able to cover the good, bad, and the ugly, and a lot of ugly can come from this. And we just, are obviously praying over you guys that is not the case. And that's why we're sending this message out and covering it with the power of the Holy Spirit in you guys and hoping and praying that this gives you life and just recharges both of you going through this long distance. But to end it with some really fun things is if you know ahead of time when you or your hubby are leaving long distance, as a wife, go ahead and do a boudoir shoot. Like, Alana, you can speak to this. You're a photographer.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. Because then, like, not only could you could print them. Like, I have my own, like, small, it's, like, super old. I got for Christmas when I was a kid. But it's, like, a photo printer. So I just, like, always just print my own. Or you could just put it in a photo book and surprise them. Send it to them in the mail. Or, put it in their suitcase before they leave. Yeah, I feel like that'd be a great way to surprise them with something super fun. Yeah. Another suggestion was that a couple, they were in a different city, but they both could go to like the same restaurant. Like it was like Chick-fil-A or something. Yeah. So they both went to the restaurant and then just like FaceTimed while we were there. And then it was like they were eating the same meal together, but they were just in different places.
Right.
Just like finding ways to,
good idea.
Yeah. To try and be together, even though you're not, because it's a tricky time.
Yeah, absolutely. So those were a bunch of the amazing suggestions and insight and experience thrown at us from a lot of our followers. And we just want to say thank you to everyone who contributed to this episode, because this was a group effort here. And that was really beautiful because we definitely have a lot of followers that deal with long distance in their relationship. So with that said, we just want to let you guys know that we are praying over you guys. We are thankful for you and your vulnerability and sharing this, asking for prayer, coming forth in this. We just pray that this episode really blesses you and your marriage.
Hey friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us as we dive deeper into meaningful, godly intimacy, tackle the hard questions, and embrace truth while we're at it. We're also on Instagram at Kingdom Sexuality. You'll find our Instagram handle below in the show notes, where you'll also see any other resource links we may have mentioned in today's episode. As always, our hearts are to cultivate deep community and freedom with you guys, and we cannot wait to continue this journey alongside you. We'll see you in the next episode.